Hello, welcome to the latest episode of To the Edge. Today we're going to be discussing the film Origins, or if you look it up online, it will be Origins, a short film. With me today, again, is co-host Mike Messier.
Glad to be here as always, Roland. Thank you.
And we have the director-producer, Charmaine Franklin Johnson.
Hello.
And our guest, who was one of the key actresses, is Sarah Pichet.
Hi.
What can you tell us about Origins briefly?
Origins started as a project where I was working with a producer, Chris Tobias, on another vampire film that kind of didn't pan out, and a couple days after it fell apart, he called me and said, why don't you write a vampire short? And so he gave me a month. He harassed me the entire month until I finished it, and it took me about 6 weeks to write altogether. And basically the story is a vampire's quest for revenge against his maker for killing the woman that he loves. And while he's finding out about his maker, he learns this entirely different truth about how he was created than what he remembers. And it involves witches, with Sarah here plays Helia, and the mother, basically the main witch across the story.
Mm-hmm. Now, from what I understand, you were able to raise quite a bit of likes on the Facebook page, 1,100 likes in a week and 5,100 in a month.
Oh, actually, not likes. That's the likes was, our first week we got about 500 likes on Facebook, and then we got up to, I think right now we're sitting at 1,280. But on Kickstarter.
Oh, Kickstarter.
Kickstarter, we got $1,000 in the first couple of days, $1,000 in the first couple of days, and we, by the end of our 30-day Kickstarter, we raised $5,100.
That's really amazing.
It was pretty awesome, actually.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is. It was pretty good.
Awesome.
Mostly probably because Chris Tobias, my co-producer, badgered everybody he knew on the planet until they decided that they would pay him just to get him to leave them alone.
It's the way to do it.
I need this guy working with me.
Yeah, and
wow.
he is very tenacious. He's like a bulldog when it comes to getting money. And the other half was friends and family of mine that pitched in for the most part. And then some of my own money as well. Not in the Kickstarter, but just to produce it. But yeah, that's how we came up to that. But right now, we have been sitting at 1,279 likes for about a month, and today we got one more like, so 1,280.
That's good.
Which is really not bad for a short film at all, especially one without a trailer.
And you've been published about in several publications.
We did. We actually got a lot of press, which was a surprise. We ended up in a few local magazines. I believe one was called South Shore Magazine. I think we also ended up in a mention in a Fall River. Well, we got the Fall River newspaper,
yes.
The Herald. Mentioned us, which is awesome. We got a picture in that, and Sarah is in that picture, and we also got onto Maxit magazine online, and they were awesome. They continued to repost their article and tweet it over and over and over again. So by the time that ran its course, about 2.5 weeks, it had been seen by about 2,000 people, which a blurb about a short film, 2,000 people, it's pretty crazy.
A short film still in production.
Still in production, right?
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, post-production now.
Yeah,
but at the time, right?
but at the time, yeah, it was still in production. So
it was fantastic.
exciting.
Now, when you were telling me about the film originally, you were telling me about how it's different from other films, that vampires are really chic right now. You've got Twilight, and you've got
Vampire Diaries.
Yeah, Vampire Diaries. And can you tell us about how Origins is different from those?
Okay. For me, vampires, I've always loved vampires. Ever since I was a kid, they were my favorite of all the horror type monsters. But I don't know why they've become daywalkers and sparkly. I don't know why they've become like an infatuation piece for girls. I'm not really sure. For me, my favorite vampires were the Anne Rice vampires. They were beautiful, but they weren't dateable, I guess. And they were still terrifying. And so I kind of think of vampires in that term. And so with me, it was trying to bring back that type of a vampire to or at least bring it back to vampire canon, that they're nighttime walkers, that they're bitten to be created, that they have to live off of blood, things like that. So that's really what kind of got me thinking about vampires. And when I came up with the main character of the story, Arius, it was what kind of vampire would I really love, not in a teeny bopper kind of way, but just just want to follow him.
Character
And
study.
yeah, and with Arius, Arius is a little bit of Louis from the Anne Rice books, and a little bit of just kind of that sort of aggressive type of guy that is just a mix of a sensitive guy with an aggressive strongness to him.
Yeah,
Right.
I was super excited to work on this too because when I heard like the vampire thing, like normally you think like Twilight, like you said, but it was nice because like even when I was younger, like you said, you like those kind of vampires. I always used to watch Interview with the Vampire when I was in like 4th grade over and over again. I love that kind of stuff.
I was already an adult by
When
then.
I was little,
I was in 3rd grade myself.
and
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I was like, I love that idea rather than
Yeah.
the kind of modernized version of it.
What can you tell us about your role in Origins?
Well, I played Helia, and I was also the mother of all witches, so it's cool because I was the youngest on the set, like look-wise, but I was also the oldest, so it's kind of like a contradiction, and I basically just created most of the characters.
Witches, yeah.
Yes.
What I really loved about meeting Sarah, I had met Sarah at an audition for the other vampire short that we were going to work on. And from the minute she walked into the room, I fell in love with her. And the first thing I even said, she came to sit down, and I leaned over to Chris and I said, "Wouldn't it be awesome if she was the oldest vampire in the world," kind of a thing. I don't know why. That's what I thought of when I saw her. And then when I was writing, I kept picturing her face, and but I wanted to include witches as part of the world because in a lot of vampire folklore, which is not current, it's not current now, but in like early vampire folklore, witches are the reason why they're created.
Okay.
And so that's what brought the witches into the story. And I was thinking it would be really cool to have this sweet-faced, 16-year-old girl be not only the oldest witch, but the reason why vampires came into existence.
You know what though? It actually makes sense because if you're the oldest and you're so long-lived, why would you age? Why would you age at all? So
Right.
why not look 16?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's good. And she delivered exactly what I wrote in my head and pictured
I had a lot
the
of fun
whole
doing
time.
this.
I didn't even really, beyond just telling her what the role was, that was pretty much it. There was no coaching. She just embodied Helia the second she got the script, which I loved about
It's
it.
definitely one of my favorite projects ever done.
How did you prepare for the role?
Well, mostly as like we would go to her house, like I went like once or twice, we read over the script, and I actually told her about this technique that I do. It's kind of weird.
I started telling other people.
Yeah,
about
and
it.
it honestly like is a really good technique that I learned acting. It's actually, we had a theater group come to my school, and someone asked, how do you get into your role so well? And you actually picture like an animal that you think would fit what the character of that person is, and you just kind of like act like that. Like if you had someone really like colorful, like a flamingo type thing,
Or a
like,
peacock.
and it just helps. Yeah, exactly. And it helps you just like the way they carry themselves, the way you would carry yourself, how you would speak, all that kind of stuff. And it's just a really good technique that helps you just get into the role.
That's called the animal exercise. Larry Moss, in his book Intent to Live, an acting book, talks about that a lot.
It really works.
That's great. What
I
was
use
your
that.
animal?
It was kind of in between. I had, with the like whole control part of it, with how she was like kind of like a ruler, I kind of had like a lion type thing, but
Sure.
then the way she was like calm and still young,
Yes.
it was more of like a dove.
Interesting.
That's a good contrast right there. A dove and a lion. That's pretty intense.
She really does sort of have to play two different people. I mean,
Especially when she's like gets sympathetic and
Yeah.
cries.
Yeah, she has to. The story takes place both in kind of Celtic times and modern day, and in the Celtic times, she is an innocent little girl, sort of that witnesses something that changes her.
Okay.
And when it does change her, that moment in her life affects her for the next 4,000 years that she's alive. And when she becomes a witch, she uses that vengeful, passion that she has to prolong herself through these next 4,000 years. And in that first time that we see her, we do see the sweet little girl that
Right.
she was. And then the event happens that changes her. And the next time we see her, she's mature. She's 4,000 years
That was my
old.
favorite
She's
things to play.
full of revenge, and she's gonna do what she has to do by any means necessary, but also not feel, it's not that she doesn't feel guilt or remorse or anything about what she does. She feels that she has a part to play, and
Yeah.
she has no choice but to play it no matter what the consequences are. And so she just goes for it. If she's going to do it, she's going to do it all the way out. And that is what Sarah delivered.
Reminds me, although you're a bit older, Kirsten Dunst in Interview with the Vampire. Do I
Yes.
have that correct? And how she, as a young actress, was able to embody this character.
Definitely.
Yeah, there might be a little bit of Claudia in her. Like I said, for me, vampires are come to me from Anne Rice, and I guess I didn't really think about her being kind of frozen in time, and maybe that's what it is when I saw her for the first time. I'm not sure, but I just know that when Sarah walked through the door, I was like, oh my gosh, she's going to be the oldest character in the world. Like that's what I'm going to do with her.
Inspiration.
That's
for
Yeah.
her.
Really
Yeah, it was, and I held on to it from that moment. Chris could even say it too, that the second I saw her, I was like, oh my God, I know what I could do with
I
her.
feel like that helped me connect with the role too.
Okay.
Claudia?
No, like
Oh,
what
what I was
you,
saying.
Yeah, that definitely helped me
Yeah.
connect to it. Because even from the beginning, even when you still hadn't even wrote it completely, and you were like, I want Sarah to do it. And I was like,
Yeah.
I definitely will.
Yeah,
before I
Sarah's
even
actually
knew.
the first person that was signed up on it, and that was before it had started to take shape enough that I knew she was going to be the main witch.
Right.
But I hadn't fully developed the character yet, and when we reached out to her, I'm like, tell her she's going to be the oldest character, and she's going to be full of revenge, and as soon as I get it done, I want her involved. And so she really was the first person that was connected to the project.
Knew I wanted to do it.
And the character's name is Helia.
Hell yeah.
And does that come from the word hell?
No, actually, it comes from the word sun. So that's a good question, because all of the characters' names, although no one will ever know except for me and my geekery, were all come from some element that makes sense to their character.
Yes.
So in her case, Helia is a witch name, and it's like a sun or a light witch, and their witch coven is called the Sisters of Light.
Okay.
So even though she has dark intentions, she uses her innocence and her light as part of her, magic and everything.
Her
So-
facade, her evil facade.
Right, and so when I had met her, she was a little bit more redheadish than she is now, and so that was the
Faded
other
a
part
little
of
bit.
it. It was like a redheaded
Okay.
witch, light, all kind of mixed together for her character name. With Arius does actually mean immortal, and it's an ancient Roman character name,
Okay.
and so that for him, that was why I chose him.
Yes.
And with Maeva, our secondary witch, that is also a witch name. It comes from sort of the voodoo witch sort of realm, and so I use that for that. Riona is our princess, I guess,
Yeah.
and Riona does mean queenly in Celtic. So every name had a purpose,
An origin of
an
itself.
origin of itself. Yeah.
It's true.
For me, I like things that connect like that, even if the audience never gets to learn that.
Now they just did.
Now they do.
Good.
Well, Arius, I was noting when I was looking at the film being produced, he did have a very notably Roman appearance.
Right. So the thing about the Celtic times that I learned while I was researching to do the world, I had two problems. When I first thought of Arius, I pictured vampires being created during Roman times, but I live in New England and I have a low or no budget. Where can I shoot that makes it look like Roman times? There's not really anything. But we have a whole lot of forest.
Yes.
Forests can really be anywhere.
Yeah.
But for me, it didn't seem like they were very Romanesque type trees or anything like that. So I said, I could probably pull off, the UK in some way, shape, or form. And then I started digging into vampire stories and witch stories, and a lot actually come more from sort of the Celtic world than any kind of Anglo-Saxon,
Yes.
other kind of Anglo-Saxon. So I started focusing in that direction. And what I found out was a lot of the tribes at the time their names were changed to Roman names as Rome started to conquer the area. So what Celtic name may exist in history doesn't exist now, and we would name them a Roman name versus a Celtic name. And so these tribes that were kind of in my story were basically from that time when Rome would have been taking over, and so that's why he could have a Roman name.
Nice.
Right. And the Roman Empire, it actually expanded quite a bit. It went from all the way across Europe into parts of Asia.
Yeah.
So you could have any part like England, and technically it's Roman.
Right. And so for the time period that is exactly what's going on in the world. So
What was it like to get the costumes together?
The costumes were great.
fun.
Actually, from our AD, Pam Severns, she recommended a friend of a friend. So it wasn't even someone that she had a direct relationship with, but she knew she was a costume designer from the theater. And what I liked about her being a theater costume designer is that she'd be able to pick out elements a little bit more detailed than maybe a film costume designer could, because in the Celtic world, in our film, it is very theatrical. It is, you know, these are two warring Celtic tribes that are coming together to fight over a princess, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And so I got to meet Mina Ha is her name, and I got to meet her. We discussed the different elements, and I gave her a couple pictures as examples, and I said, you know, it doesn't have to look like this, but this is kind of the essence I'm looking for. And she just went for it. She just created these really wonderful costumes for our tribes. And what she did was, she knew that they were two separate tribes, so she kept a different element, with one tribe being sort of a bluish, tan tartan type thing, and that's Arius's tribe. And then for Helia's tribe, there was a red element to it.
Okay.
So everybody that was involved would have some element of red inside their costume. Even if it wasn't super visible,
Right.
it was just to get the actors in kind of that
It was really
place.
cool to work with.
Reminds me of a chess set match. You know,
Yeah.
different colors kind of wearing off.
Yeah, because they're basically the same
Definitely.
type of people, but they have their different element, and that's what we did. So the costumes, they were great. She really delivered. She added little tiny elements that were just really smart. Little fur pieces for our main warrior Barak. Little strings and knots that were kind of tied into things that, you know, might not get a whole lot of screen time, but really put the actors into their characters.
What I'm admiring about this piece, Roland, is the scope, the depth, the ambition, and like you said, a modest budget, you know, and just not the modest budget not stopping you in any way from achieving what you want visually.
Yeah. The thing for me, in my history, I went to film school back in 2003. We're about the same age, so
Yeah.
and I've worked on a lot of people's things, but I just stopped working on my own stuff.
Yeah.
I just did. I got real jobs and yeah, exactly. I
Well,
did. You know, I mean, the closest to a paid film job I've had in the last 10 years was I was an office manager at Austin Film Festival.
Okay.
And but beyond that, I worked as operations managers and office managers, and I would write, but I would never get to that next step.
Yeah.
And then I moved all the way, and I'm from LA, so that's awesome. I left LA to become a filmmaker. But
Right.
I finally got up here, and I moved here about 3 years ago, not really knowing anybody or having any kind of touchstone. I just decided that if I didn't do it now, I wasn't going to do it.
Sure.
And if I was going to do it, it wasn't going to be, you know, I probably have folders and folders of small pieces that would have been easier to pull off.
Right.
But for me, it was like it was go big or go home. I have a film that's got special effects. We're in the past with Celtic costumes. We're in modern day with witches. And it was like I had to do it this way or it wasn't going to get done.
I
great.
completely understand where you're coming from, because I spent all of my 20s and my early 30s either in college or going from one dead-end job to the next, not
Right.
having any connections. And now that I have the connections, now that I have the opportunity, it's like full speed ahead no matter
Yeah.
what.
And even, you know, it's going to be uncomfortable sometimes. We're going to be broke. We're going to be eating pizzas on set, or, you know, sandwiches. Like, I guess I must have gave
We're good.
everybody
They were
1,000
pretty good.
sandwiches on my set.
No, but it was good. It was
um,
fine.
You know, it was just like whatever we had to do to try to get it together, because, you know, a lot of budget went into the costumes, which you can tell, I think, once you get the chance to see them. A lot of budget's going to go towards the special effects, and then there's just a lot of kindness of strangers. So many people donating, if not money, then time or
Right.
some element to it that will push us to that next step. And so hopefully the future of Origins is that this can showcase what we can do, and then I can put together the future for it.
You know, I want to say that even without looking at post-production special effects, the raw footage looked tremendous.
It did, right? I was so impressed. I mean, it really went above and beyond what my anticipation was when I set out to do this. When we started, I was like, you know, if I have to do it on my Sony Handycam, I'm going to do it on my Sony Handycam. And then I met Nelson, and he had his own equipment, and he was like, no, we'll go ahead and use my equipment. I have insurance, no big deal.
Right.
He's like, just come on. So he came on board, and really anything that I envisioned and kind of explained, he found a way to just make it 20 times better than I envisioned.
Yeah, he
Teamwork.
was a great director
Yeah,
of
he was
photography.
Yeah, he
really
was awesome.
great to work with.
Teamwork.
Yeah, it was really, it was the most teamwork film project I've ever been on.
Nice.
The one other project that I was on that I really enjoyed everybody was an all-female cast and crew called The Pink Dress back in 2003. And
Wow,
I
that's
thought-
way back.
It was way back, and since then, anything I've worked on, I was just a person that was there for whatever, you know,
Right.
whatever it was, the role that I was playing. And I've done a few things even here locally as well, but I didn't feel as connected to it until this project. And I realized this is my project, but I lucked out. I met these people that just delivered above and beyond what I could have ever expected, and it was great. It was just awesome. And I even turned my husband into a PA, which was good because he was one of the best PAs I've ever had.
Oh, great.
He knew who the boss was.
He was.
That's great.
Sarah, what did you most get out of this film?
I feel like I most got out of this film just not only the experience of getting to work like in different scenarios than I normally have. I've never gotten to do so much stuff like outside in this time span, like this time period. So it was really good for like my acting experience. And it was just nice like meeting all the people that I did. Everybody was so different, but in a good way, that it was like there wasn't anybody who, like some of the people, everybody was just so nice.
Yeah.
Even though nobody's different, like I just felt like I could talk to everybody. Everyone was so friendly. No one seemed like they didn't want to be there at all.
Right.
It was a surprise.
It was like a really good group of people.
Nice.
It's a really good group of people.
And you were the younger statesman,
I was.
so
I
to
was
speak.
Yes, you was.
significantly the youngest on set too, and it didn't feel like it though. Like everyone was really nice.
But what an experience for you, and 30, 40 years from now, when you're kind of the elder states lady or type of deal, you'll be able to help
Know
younger
how-
actors. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I've been in the position before.
Yeah, great.
It's a really nice experience to have.
Now, do you do theater at school?
I don't do any type of theater stuff. I mean, I used to when I was younger,
Yeah.
but now I just do.
I like that she says when I was younger.
Yeah.
When I was an
still young.
embryo.
That's why
still
the
young.
ER, the younger.
It was more in like between elementary school and middle school. I did a lot
Sure.
of theater stuff, and now that I'm like in high school, my school doesn't have like the best theater program.
Okay.
So I've just been getting into auditioning for as many of the film stuff I can do, and I just really like that kind of stuff. Like I
Didn't you-
specifically like the film.
You did some stuff for RISD. And
I did. I do like a lot of stuff for ISD.
Cool. Short films?
Yeah, short films. I've done a few voiceovers, and anytime they need, like, from doing on the short films, like, because when I was at RISD doing, like, one of the short films, it was literally just her whole class came, and they would just help each other with their one short film.
Yeah.
So I met all these different, like, aspiring directors, and a lot of them have called me to, like, do other stuff, like,
You need
it's
Sarah.
really cool. So,
Sarah's the kind of person, and I'm not just saying that because she's the one sitting here, but she's the kind of person that then when you're thinking about what your next project is, you're thinking, what can I put Sarah
well,
in?
thank you.
That's great. What a testimony.
There's about 3 people in our project that I'm like, okay, can I keep putting them in the same thing? You know, like a Kevin
Yeah.
Smith or whatever. Can I keep using them? Because
Tim Burton and
Yeah.
Johnny Depp.
yeah, it's that kind of thing.
That's fantastic.
That's the way to do it. I'm also producing commercials for a real estate agent, and we're going to do a series of 25 of them. And I'm trying to be economical. I don't want to cast 25 times, so I'm thinking to myself, what's a stable group of people who I can always depend upon?
Right. Yeah, and I think especially in New England, or at least what I'm learning, is that everybody seems to know each other. I mean, honestly, I was one of the few people on our cast and crew that did not know anybody else.
Right.
Or hadn't worked with somebody, or at least hadn't heard about somebody else. And so, so I'm really ready to cling to all these people because they delivered so well for me, but also, they're now my touchstone in this state, in this area. Now I know that I have this wonderful actress in New Hampshire and another one in Connecticut and Sarah and, all these people that I can kind of pull on and hope that I can find ways of using them more often and be able to pay them.
Drop some names. Who came together for you?
Like we already mentioned, the DP Nelson Reese, which was an accidental find pretty much through an ad and might not have even we might not have even been able to meet on the time that we met. Like it wasn't probably going to happen, and then we met and I had other DPs to meet and I just couldn't meet them after meeting him.
Right.
Yeah, he was just the one right
Locked
away.
in.
Yeah, right away he was the one. Sarah, like I said, I met her at another audition for something else and held on to her as hard as I could.
That was like a long time
It
before
was.
that too.
It was back in April.
Yeah.
Because I had come back from LA, and it was a few weeks after I came back from LA, or actually the week after I came back from LA, I had done this audition.
And that audition, I remember because I submitted to it, and it was like 18 to 25, and like I was 16 at the time, but
it was the weirdest one.
it was weird. I don't know why. I think it was more because it said like a younger sister. So I was like, okay, I'll submit to it. So we went in, and I was like, oh, I'm probably not gonna get anything out of this. I mean, I'm a little bit young for it.
It was
the
a
exact
strange
opposite.
character description because they had no age, no ethnicity, no really anything about it. It was like women from this age to this age, please come by and we'll figure it out when you got there.
They just wanted the best actress.
Yeah.
You know, one
Just a guideline.
Yeah, and one thing, Sarah, you know, as an actress, or a male actor, whatever, you don't have to give out your exact age because what's really important is your range.
What you can
Yeah.
play, right?
Yeah, so just something to think about.
So when she came, actually with her, Dominique and Nick DeMeo, Dominique LaFleur and Nick DeMeo, those were the three that we saw at this other audition.
Yeah,
And we kept in contact with, and they ended up coming on for this one. My AD, Pam, was really great, and she does a lot of comedy stuff in Boston, improv type stuff, so she has her own show called Ben and Eric that she does like at coffee houses. They'll show some of their videos, and they'll do some improv and stuff like that, sing songs. She came through, and actually she and I are about to work on another project together. Our gaffer, Walter Stone, came in pretty much at the last minute because we were about to lose our gaffer, and he came through with all his equipment, and he was awesome.
for the folks that don't know, what is a gaffer?
He handles all of the lighting and electrical aspects of the production. So he came with his own van, his own lights, his own cords, everything. He was well equipped, and like I said, I mean, literally 3 days before we
Nice.
shot, he came through for us and was great all the way through. I had the best script supervisor I have ever met.
Yes.
He was so detail oriented. His name's Mike Carlson.
Yeah, he definitely was.
He was, right? I mean, he just caught things
He was
that
super personable too.
yeah, and I think that helped too, how nice he was. But he caught things that I thought I paid close attention to detail, and I was missing things that he was picking up that were just the slightest thing. Like, you know, the last time you delivered that line, you hiccuped. You know, like you swallowed a little, but you didn't swallow this time. You know,
Yes.
just very, very detailed stuff. So he was awesome, and gosh, I hope I remember everybody that was involved. And then Roland, we met Roland also through the project. And actually, you came on about a week or two? It's
Yeah, it was
pretty-
about a week or two beforehand.
Right. Yeah.
I was recommended through a friend of a friend.
Yeah. That's right. Is it Jocelyn that came through for that?
I don't think it was Jocelyn. I think it was Rochelle Cook who knew Chris
Who knew
Tobias.
Chris? Right.
And then I met with you.
Yeah, that's right. And we
Three
met,
connections.
We met at the we met at the
Three
coffee
degrees.
house here in Bridgewater. So
And I introduced Rochelle Cook to you, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's all my response.
it's all
It
because
was
of you.
introduced by way of Port Fist.
All right. Well, we're running out of time. We got about a minute left, Roland.
Yeah, it's a small world. I just want to say that it was a pleasure to be involved with Origins, and it was great to be able to talk with you about the project and gain more insights. Are there any closing thoughts or anything else that you'd like to add about Origins, either of you?
It was great to do it.
When it is finally out, I'll let everybody know, and please watch it.
I'm excited for that too.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to the trailer and the film as well.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, and thanks for being a part of it.
Not a problem. All right, we'll see you next time on To the Edge.